All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, we're ready to roll. There we go. All right. Can you guys hear me okay if I don't talk into the mic, or do you want me to talk into the mic? Mic, okay. I will do that then. I'm going to take it off of there if I can, because I sort of wander when I talk. All right, I'm going to go sort of fast. I'm going to assume that you guys are awake on a Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock, just after you ate. And what I'm here to do is basically have a conversation. So I'm going to talk for about 5 or 10 minutes. We're going to take some questions. I'm going to talk some more. And the one thing I'm going to have you leave with, if you forget everything else, the one thing I'm going to have you leave with is there is hope. And what I mean by hope is, I would say we've been talking to Iowans for 3 years now, and we've talked to over 10,000 Iowans, and the number one thing they tell us is they are very discouraged with the political system. They are very frustrated. They feel like their vote doesn't matter, all of these things. And it's to the level of hopelessness that I use the analogy is if you've been shoveling sand in the desert for 6 years, at some point you're going to stop shoveling sand because you're going, what is the point? I moved the sand from here to over here. I wake up the next day, the wind has moved it here. I dig and I move and I dig and I move and nothing changes, so you disengage. And what we have found at Ballot, Iowa, unfortunately, a vast majority of Iowans have disengaged. Not disengaged because they don't care. Let's be clear. It's not disengaged because I don't care. It's disengaged because I do not see a solution to the problem. And the problem is, and it's a good follow-up to the talk we just had, most people in Iowa and nationally don't feel like their elected officials are accountable to them. Most people feel like elected officials are not accountable to them. The game is rigged. I don't have an impact. Hence, I don't know if any of you ever played marbles on the playground. I did. I'm going to take my marbles and I'm going to go home. Okay? So, I'm going to get rolling. My name is David Gion. I'm 55. I actually made it to 55. Woo! I've been starting and growing companies for 30 years. And why that's important to what we're talking about today is innovation, okay? And sometimes I title this talk, Politics and Innovation. And everybody looks at me like, well, that's an oxymoron. What do you mean, innovation and politics, okay? So the most important thing when you're taking something new out, everyone thinks it's always about the idea. And I'm going to tell you, you skip a very important point. The point is you have to make sure you define the problem. And everybody agrees that that is the problem. If you get everybody to agree, or a vast majority to agree on the problem, solutions come in tidal waves. When you run into problems is when people skip over the problem and just talk solution. Because if I just jump to the solution here, I would guarantee you that you folks would be sitting here going, I don't really understand the problem being solved. I don't get it. I'd be saying some other words, you'd be thinking, I'd be saying some other words, you'd be thinking, and you'd leave here and go, I don't know what he's talking about. So, the other piece with hope, all right, is we have a systems problem. If you don't remember anything else from my talk today, not a thing. You're driving home and you talk to someone and you go, what did that dude talk about? If all you say is, he said something about we have a systems problem, okay? You're golden, all right? So, a couple things first. I'll tell you the problem and solution. I'm going to do Q&A. But here is something that's very important. I want to thank each of you for doing this. This is a Saturday afternoon in Des Moines, Iowa. And you have chosen to come here and sit here and try to do something to make some impact. I don't know all of your driving interests, but I'm going to tell you this is how stuff gets done. One person taking one action at a time, all right? And you repeat it again and again and again. So I'm going to have one ask of you. If you are satisfied with the political system, don't do anything. Just enjoy the 35-minute show, dream about what you're going to do tomorrow, do whatever. If you are dissatisfied and you think we can do better, I'm going to ask you to join the conversation. And join the conversation, yes, it does mean you're going to text us your email address and your name and your zip code. And unfortunately, yes, you're going to get 4 to 6 emails a month. And I'm asking you to just browse those. It might take you all of 5 to 7 minutes a month to stay informed and learn. So my ask is, if you're upset enough that you think and you want us to do better, I'm going to ask you to join the conversation. We respect your time. We don't bombard you with 10 emails a day. But I'm asking you to dedicate 5 to 7 minutes a month to trying to get our democracy back on track. Okay? So we'll come back to that. So who are we? We are Iowans working together, bringing innovation to politics, and this is important. Simple, practical, and a big one is nonpartisan. I am not up here picking more Republicans, more Democrats, more Independents, more Green Party. We're just here for a healthier democracy and for a better future for Iowa. Okay? And so we're going to jump into Political Innovation 101. So there's a lot of challenges out there that we could go after. And there's a lot of frustration. But the main problem is what we call voting 1.0. It's about 100, 125 years old, and it leads to all the stuff that we're all frustrated with. So we call that voting 1.0. The solution, since we all probably have an iPhone or a phone in our hands and we know software, is all we have to do is upgrade our system from voting 1.0 to voting 2.0. Okay? So, what did I say? The one thing. That's it. I can stop right there. We have a systems problem. And the next sentence is going to torque some of you off. I guarantee you. It is not a people problem. I know some of you might not like Trump, some of you might not like Biden, some of you don't like, just insert the person you don't like. Everybody goes, you know what we need? We need better people. And sorry folks. Everyone think in your head, a person that you think would make a great legislator, governor, you name it. I would put $1 million down. You put them in the system today, and what do they have to do? They have to conform to the system to get stuff done. And we've all seen it. And they do it for 1 election cycle, 2 election cycles, 3 election cycles. Pretty soon they're tired, and they go, I tried my best. Put the next person in. So we don't have a people problem. We have a systems problem. And if we don't change the system, fast forward every 2 years, every 4 years, just keep going, what we're going to have is the chaos and the negativity that we have today. Okay? We have a systems problem, not a people problem. Okay? So, our political system is tearing us apart. I usually do this, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to tell you. Sometimes I start my talk and I go, okay, we're going to talk politics today. I'm going to choose the topic and I'm going to randomly pick someone and ask them to stand up and talk about it. You want to see people get squeamish? And I'll go, don't worry, I got 5 topics. I got abortion, I got immigration, I've got fair labor. I just go down the list and people are like, this is not what I came here for. Because we don't talk about politics anymore. What we do is we yell about it. Or we talk about it in our little circle of trusted friends. So, it's tearing us apart. All right? The reasons I told you, the biggest one is people say hopeless. All right? But here's the key. Voting is the one handle we all have to communicate with our elected leaders, to enforce accountability, but it's not working. All right? Voter participation is going like this. Why? Because people feel like they're shoveling sand. All right? Don't answer this question internally. Do not answer it externally. How many people are excited about the two choices we're going to have for the President of the United States? We've got a lot of really good people in the U.S. And how many people are just thrilled that those are our two choices? Just, woo! I mean, okay? But we can fix it. So, 85% of U.S. House districts are safe seats. So, if you feel like your vote doesn't matter, it's because it doesn't. Okay? Safe seats. What a safe seat means is, and this is at the U.S. House level, the election actually occurs in the primary. It's a Republican district, or it's a Democratic district, and the election occurs in the primary. It's a safe seat. Okay? So, here we go in Iowa. 37 out of 100 representatives, Iowa House seats, had no opposition in the general election. Nobody. There's one person running. I mean, if you have a pulse, there you go, you get elected. All right? So I'm going to go back here for a second. I'm going to go right here, not there. Oops, how do I go back? There we go. So we're going to play a game here. This is my favorite part of doing this. At your table, you guys decide if there's more than 3, give everybody a number, 1, 2, or 3. You can do it. Everybody gets a number, 1, 2, or 3. And if there's more than 1, duplicate it. Go, go, go.
All right.
Okay. Now, everybody stand up. Please stand up. 1s, you go over to that area. 2s, you go behind that wood thing over there. And 3s, you go over here. All right? So, we're going to play the game called the primary game. All of you have paid your taxes. All of you have registered to vote. So all of you have done the right things to play the game. But the first part of the game is, who are the number 2s? Sorry, folks, you can sit down. You don't have to participate. Just go ahead and sit down. Please sit down. I know you were going to play, but you can't play, so sit down. So, in our society, who are those folks? Independents. All right? It gets better. So in Iowa, just so you know, nationally, in 2000, registered independents was about 22%. Anyone have an idea of what the registered national independents are today?
About 1/3.
What?
1/3 about?
42%. 42% of voters nationally are registered independent, and sorry, they don't get to play the game. All right, so this is another one. There's about 10 of you over here or whatever. So here's the other thing. You all have a ticket. You all paid to play. Everyone except you, go sit down. You stay standing. Okay? Same over here. You all paid to play. You all have a ticket. Everyone except you, go sit down. Okay? Okay? And the reason I do this is, remember how I said these are safe seats, right? And the election really happens in the primary. Okay? The reason I have one person out of 10 stand over here is is guess how many registered voters show up in the primary? 10%. So there's, I'm just making this up, I don't know if this is your party. There's the lone Republican. And it doesn't matter, Democratic side too, 10%, so there's the lone Democrat. Wouldn't you all have loved to help pick your legislator? But the way the game is set up today, that's who picks them. And who do you think shows up in the primary? The farther left and the farther right. Okay? So, the first systems problem is we have closed primaries. And 1%, 10% of the registered Republicans and 10% of the registered Democrats elect the official. Now, you guys can sit down. Thank you. Now, somebody will go, well, Dave, that's not totally true. On the day of the election, if you're independent, you can change your voting registration to be a Democrat or a Republican. And I'm like, well, yes, you can. Why are you registered independent? Because you want to be independent. If you wanted to be a Republican or Democrat, you would have already registered that way. Okay? Yes? Gotcha.
You cheated.
So, the problem, the systems problem, the first one is that we have closed primaries. I'm going to jump to the solution quick like, and then we'll cover it again. The solution is really simple. Everybody gets invited to the primaries. Doesn't matter, as long as you're a registered voter, and you have one primary, not a Republican primary, not a Democratic primary. People running for office can say they're a Democrat or Republican or independent, and then you advance the top 4 or 5 to the general election. From a voter's perspective, all that changes for the primary is everybody gets invited to the picnic. Everybody can go to the picnic. And when we do this, Alaska started doing this in 2022. There's 3 other states that are looking to adopt it in 2024. No surprise, voter participation goes up. Because now it's like, hey, I can be an independent and I can go vote for a Democrat, or I can be an independent and go vote for a Republican, or I can be a Green, whatever it is. Okay? So that's systems problem number 1 is closed primaries. And I'm going to be really quick on this. Who do you think are the 2 organizations in this country that do not like that? The Democratic Party and the Republican Party. Okay? So, any questions on that? Yeah.
As a registered Democrat, I'd like to be a devil's advocate here.
Sure.
Why would I, as a Democrat, want a bunch of Republicans and a bunch of independents coming and meddling in my party's choice of who we're going to run for office?
Good question. So the question is, why would he want someone to come muddle with the Democrats who's going to run for office? Everyone raise your hand here if you want the party to pick the people to run or you to pick the people. Who wants the party to pick the people? That's okay. Who wants the people to pick the people? Okay? And here's the part.
There's a third choice. You're making a false dichotomy.
Okay.
The third choice is who wants just your own Democrats to pick the person who's running.
So you still can. Because 5 have to advance. 4 or 5. Out of the primary, you're not advancing 1, you're advancing 4 or 5. So if all the Democrats go to the primary and they all pick him because that's their choice, he's going to advance. And if all the Republicans go to the primary and they pick him because that's their choice, he's going to advance. You still can. We're not saying you can't advance a Democrat or a Republican or 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. Now, I say this, and this is the other thing from innovation. Change only happens when people get uncomfortable. And people only change for 2 reasons. Pleasure or pain. If the pleasure is high enough, I'll change. The pain is high enough, I'll change. I'm not asking you to agree with me today. I'm asking you to join the conversation.
No, but, well, maybe I'm misunderstanding. So how does this happen? Let's say there's 10 people running in the primary.
Correct, that could be, you could have 10 people running in the primary.
Okay, and then
And then you put,
everybody votes for, everybody votes for one person.
one person,
And then how many people advance?
4 or 5, you could, every state can do it differently,
And then what
mathematically.
happens is those 4 or 5 run in the general election?
We'll get to that. We'll come to that. You're excellent. We'll cover that. But yes, 4 or 5 advance to the general election. Yeah?
Is this what's, I've heard the phrase jungle primary, is this what you're talking about?
They call it a jungle primary. The people that are trying to kill it call it a jungle primary. Okay? So, has anyone here ever gone into a Cheesecake Factory? The Cheesecake Factory, the Cheesecake Factory restaurant? Has anyone ever seen that menu?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Whenever I go to the Cheesecake Factory, all I do is go, oh, that's what I had last time, or these are the 2 things. So the people that are against this bring up the term jungle primary because they want to create fear and confusion. They want to tell you, the voters, you guys aren't smart enough to pick the top person or 2 people out of 30 people. I mean, you guys just aren't smart enough. I mean, come on. I mean, can you pick the best person out of 30 people? Are you qualified? That's why you hear jungle primary. Okay? So, that's problem number 1. So, 8% of U.S. voters effectively elected 83% of Congress in the last election. 8%. Another way you can look at it, in a safe seat, if I was running in a safe seat and I made it out of the primary, the general election is just a victory lap. Thank you, everybody. I'm here. I won already. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay? So, if I add up urban Republicans, rural Democrats, independents, third-party voters, I have a majority of Iowa voters. A majority, and they have no impact on the general election. Okay? And again, I am not asking you to agree with me today. I am asking you, if you're frustrated enough to think that we could do better, to join the conversation. Because you can have some really healthy conversations on these points. So it's no wonder we're frustrated. But here's the nice part. There's hope, and it's real hope. It's not pie in the sky hope. All right? So, I'm going to fly a little bit here in the interest of time. Politics is about creating new possibilities. We can make our electric system work better for voters. And this one's important. Candidates alike. There's a lot of people that would like to run for public office. And what's the number 1 reason they do not run for public office? Anyone want to throw it out? No. It's not money. What? Not their background. What?
Fear of being attacked.
Correct. They're like, I don't want to run for public office, and if I'm going to run against you, I got to smear you, and you're going to smear me, and you're going to smear my kids, and you're going to smear my wife, and you're going to smear everything else, and I got to smear you, and do smear. So it's like, I'm going to go make a difference a different way. All right? So, we are, again, party lines, identities, geography. So we're going to go through how we vote today. With single choice voting, if you're really technical in the weeds, it's called plurality voting. We don't use the word plurality voting because 95% of people don't understand what plurality voting means. Single choice voting is, here's your list, pick one. All right? Well, here's the truth of it. Single choice voting works great when you have 2 choices. Fantastic. Works fantastic. Okay? The moment you bring in a 3rd choice, single choice voting goes, I don't handle more than 2 choices. No more than 2 choices. No more than 2 choices. Why? If you're younger, you might not have seen this. If you're older, like myself, you have. It's called the spoiler effect. and we call this one evil incarnate, the one you don't like. Okay, we're sitting good, Uh-oh, what the heck? We got a third person running? We got more choice? We don't want, we can't have more choice because the candidates that appeal to the similar voter split the vote, and evil incarnate or whoever you don't want wins. So, human beings are really good, and I'm not going to go through this, I'm going to skip through that, the spoiler effect. This is what it does. It makes us afraid of choice. And when we're out there talking to 10,000 Iowans, the number one thing they tell us after all the stuff that they feel, the number one thing they say is, I'd like more choice. And I look at them and I go, if we don't upgrade the system, you're getting two choices, baby. And they're not going to be the choices you necessarily like. Okay? So what we do is, don't run for office, you're going to spoil it. We need that guy to run. Don't run for office. Stop running for office. Okay? So we discourage new entrants. Okay? Systems problem. And then, here is the playbook. This is why a lot of candidates don't run it. Do you know what the winning playbook in single choice voting is? The winning playbook in single choice voting is really simple. I'm running against you, and you're running against me. I demonize you, and I get all my people, not necessarily to vote for me, to vote against you. You demonize me and do the same. Well, so some people go, don't do that. If you don't do that, you lose. It's pretty straightforward. Okay? So if we use single choice voting, the playbook is, I must demonize the other guy. How many people in here have children? Raise your hand if you have children. Okay? How many would tell their children, I have a great career for you to go into. Here's what you got to do. When you wake up in the morning, you got to go stand out in public, and you got to demonize another human being all day long. And they're going to demonize you. Go do it. I'm going to say a vast majority don't. And hence we have fewer and fewer and fewer people that run for office. And when they do, if they choose not to demonize, they get torched. Okay? Systems problem. Alright? So, it breaks down into more than two strong choices, and this is what we do. Humans don't like stuff to break down. Not a single person in this room likes stuff to break down. Okay? So what we do is we went upstream and we created the two closed primaries. The two closed primaries serve a very important purpose today. They make sure we only have two choices. Okay? Because humans don't like stuff to break down. So we go and we get one from the Republican side, one from the Democratic side, and boom. Now we have our two choices. But back to your point, where you said, so what happens when 4 or 5 advance? Okay? So, I'm going to fly a little bit. I'm going to skip some stuff. Oh, I got to do this stat. This is my favorite stat. How frustrating is it? Congress's current approval rating as of last month, 13%. 13%. National polls and their current re-election rate, 94.5. So do you think the system's working? Okay? So, recap, single choice voting. Breaks down to more than two choices. We need the heavy gatekeeping. Spoiler effect. Don't run for office.
There's one point on your last slide. You ask the average person, how's Congress doing? Terrible. How's your congressman? They say wonderful.
It could be, but when you ask them nationally how Congress is doing, that could be true.
Yeah.
I'm talking about national.
Right, but they always think their own congressperson is doing a good job.
Okay, fair enough. So, And then you can win with less than 50% of the votes. And the negative campaigning is what you have to do. Okay? So, how do we solve this? This is the nice part. Well, I'm going to go back to here quickly. Anybody have any questions on the problem? Yes.
What if no one voted in the primary?
What do you say? What if no one voted in the primary?
Yeah, no one showed up, no one voted. Would all 5 of the candidates on either side be advanced?
I've never had anyone ask that question, but just so you know, there are countries that have democracies that don't have primaries.
Yeah.
I've had people from other countries come up and go, Dave, I don't know what you guys are doing in the U.S. with all this primary stuff. We don't have primaries. We have 6 or 7 people advance, and we use ranked choice voting, and everything goes great. I don't understand why you guys have this primary stuff. And then I tell them, well, we need the primaries because we use single choice voting, and it breaks down. And they go, okay.
So if you eliminate the primaries,
Then you could. You could.
solve the problem.
You could absolutely eliminate the primaries. So, any other questions on defining the problem? So the problem is, it's a systems problem. We use single choice voting at no more than 2. I cannot handle more than 2. And the way I do that is close primaries. All right? So, this is what I like. The solution is pretty simple. All right? Voting 2.0, we choose better, we open up the ballot. We have a long history of innovating our way out of problems. It's just we haven't applied innovation to politics for a long time. Okay? So, this isn't complicated. So, it's time to vote. You go, to your point, 5 in advance. All you do is you rank them. This is my first choice. This is my second choice. This is my third choice. This is my fourth choice. And this is my fifth choice. The reason why I say this isn't complicated is, do any of you feel uncomfortable ranking anything? I mean, the first time I ranked something, I remember it. I was in 4th grade. Mrs. Remington, it was the end of the school year. And she said, hey, we're going to have ice cream for celebration next week. Here are the 7 potential ice creams. Put them in order. And we put them in order. This is my favorite. And she just took the top 4 based on ranking. Okay? So the reason I don't spend too much time on ranked choice voting is you as the voter can do this. It's pretty straightforward. And by the way, in Iowa, if someone asks the question, are we ready to do this? 98 of the 99 counties already have the software to do this. The one thing you have to do if we did an election using ranked choice voting is you have to educate people. The first time they show up, you have to go, hey, you're coming to an election. Instead of picking one, you're going to rank it. Okay? So, there is someone's ballot, and they said their first choice was candidate B, their second choice was A, their third choice was C, and by the way, just like today, some people ask this question, do I have to rank everybody? Nope. You can put down 1 person, you can put down 2, you can put down 3. That's your choice. All right? So, it's pretty easy. So the biggest one here is now that I have ranked choice voting, I can handle 4 or 5 or 3 or 6 really good candidates. I don't have to fear choice anymore. I can have 2 good Democrats, and I can have 2 good Republicans, and they can all run together. Okay? Now, if I can do that, I don't need the heavy gatekeeping. I don't need the closed primaries anymore. Because I can have 4 or 5 advance. And on the ticket, you can say I'm a Democrat. You can say I'm a Republican. You can say I'm a Libertarian. And if the Democratic Party wants to say I'm endorsing you, they can do that. Just like they do today. Okay? Spoiler effect. We minimize the spoiler effect because we can handle multiple choices. This is a big one. Negative campaigning. So ranked choice voting has been used in the U.S. about 2 decades. There's actually a professor at the University of Iowa that's been studying it for 2 decades. But it's also been used in Australia for about a century, same as New Zealand. And guess what doesn't work so well with ranked choice voting? The demonization. And I'm going to give you the example here. The three of us are in a race. Okay? He's at 47%, she's at 44%, and I'm at 7%. With ranked choice voting, you need a simple majority. He's at 47, he doesn't have it. You're at 44, you don't have it. I'm at 7, I don't have it. What are the odds I'm going to get it? Probably not high. But it's 6 weeks before the election, and you and your campaign manager have to sit down and go, where are we going to get 3 percentage points? Probably not from her, okay? And she's probably not going to get 6 percentage points from your folks. There might be a little bit. Most likely from my folks. Okay? So when you approach my folks and go and use the demonization tactic, by the way, how many people like the 3 months before the election on the TV ads? I mean, for us, you know, wake up, turn those on. You just feel so good after watching this. Okay? So the key is if he uses the old tactics and they have enough data to prove this, my folks will go, I just don't like him. I don't like that. I'll vote for you second. So in ranked choice voting, if you have 47 or you have 45, you have to go talk to people that didn't put you first, and you have to approach my people with this statement. I know you're not your first choice. What would it take for me to be your second choice? And my folks aren't going to go, well, you know what? It's because you're a good looks and charm. No, they're going to go, these are the issues that matter to me. And so if you don't talk to those issues, and she talks to those issues, where are my folks going to probably vote? So now we're talking issues, and we're lessening demonization. I am never going to say that politics is going to be a Pollyanny, everybody loves everybody. I am not going there. What I am saying, though, is the demonization we have today, it has to swing back to more talking about issues and what you're going to do for people. Okay? So, I'm going to keep going. These are the examples of where it's used. The military, by the way, has been using ranked choice voting for about 30 years in the southern states. Because guess what? If there's a runoff, like in Georgia, I can't get my ballots overseas and back in time, so they use ranked choice voting. I'd say if it's good enough for the military for 20 years, it's probably good enough for the rest of us. I have to skip a little fun, even though it's Iowa State Fair. I wanted to show you something. Here's an example. You guys can't see that. I'm going to go back to here. If you guys, after this, and I'll make sure it gets emailed out or whatever to everybody that attended, you can easily go to our website right here, and there's an example of a ranked choice voting we did at the Iowa State Fair. And it's State Fair, everyone's favorite State Fair food. And it walks you through, and you can move the slider, and it's pretty educational. In the interest of time, I'm not going to do that. Okay? So,
Just tell us who won.
the State Fair? Well, you know what? You guys give me 2 minutes. It's too much fun. I'm going to pop that up if I can. If I can do it. If it doesn't pop up easily, I'm not going to do it. While I'm doing this, any questions on the solution? Yes.
Do the math.
What?
How do you do the math?
How do they do the math? Yeah, this will be restore pages. No, I don't want to restore pages. I'm going to exit that out. I'm going to go here to best fair food straw poll results. This will answer your question. So if you can, oh, it's not show. How do I get that to show it? I'm seeing it here.
Now to mirror the other screen. It still thinks PowerPoint's
Oh,
the most thing.
you know, can you do that quick or no?
Maybe.
Give me a second, folks, because this is. You have to do a bunch of stuff. It's right here. I can see it. You guys can. If you could. If you can get that up there, that would be wonderful, and I'll end with this, because this is pretty powerful. Yes.
It relates to money.
Yes.
So there's, as we all know, an awful lot of money in politics.
Correct.
So how would ranked choice voting kind of minimize the effect that money has?
I'm gonna say it won't.
It won't, okay.
No. The difference is, today, the money that, if back to single choice voting, we have to demonize each other, right? So, are you gonna donate to a campaign where someone's demonizing someone else? You individually. Depends on, I like the honest answer, depends on who they're demonizing, okay? But a lot of people don't feel good about donating to campaigns when it's like, well, it depends on who they're demonizing. It's the classic lesser of two evils. But if you now have ranked choice voting and you have 4 candidates running, okay, and you know that 4 candidates make it to the general, and you know that your candidate can have an impact, I'm going to say more people will donate to that candidate. Okay? The money part, I'm going to be straight up. The systems problem we're solving, it's not going to solve the money problem. But I'm going to make this proposition. If we don't solve the voting problem, we're never going to get people in office that are going to solve the money problem. And people ask me about, Dave, what about term limits? Good question. Term limits. Every 2 years or 4 years for the last decade, it polled the national public, 72% want term limits. And I'm telling them, you're not going to get term limits unless you can get people into office that will put term limits in place, if that's what's wanted. So the reason we're focused on voting is we believe fundamentally this is the smallest change with the biggest impact.
See if I got this right. So you have a primary, ranked choice, and that narrows from say 15 down to 4 or 5.
Correct.
And you have another election, again, ranked choice. You just keep having elections.
No, so the first part, so on the open primary, everyone just picks one.
Yeah.
So when you go to the primary, you don't rank, everyone just picks the one, and the top 5 vote getters advance. And then, when you go to ranked choice, and if I can get this on the screen, it will answer your question beautifully. You put down your first choice, your second choice, your third choice. If your first choice gets eliminated, you're the number 5, the last place, then we count your second choice. So, ranked choice voting, a quick way, the way it works, is if I have 5 people running, and let's say I'm number 5, and it's the day of the election, and everybody puts down their first place, second, third, and fourth, and we tabulate all the first place votes. And the number 1 person only has 44. That means we don't have a winner. Okay, if the number 1 person after tabulating first place votes would have 50 plus 1, we've got a winner. But if they have 44, we don't have a winner. And Dave Gion is currently in last place at 4%. So I am eliminated. And when I'm eliminated, you look at everybody that voted for me, and you say, what was your second choice? And then that gets redistributed amongst the 4 that are left. And if we have a 50% winner, the election's over. If the first place person is now at 49, we don't have a winner, we go and we drop the last person, we redistribute votes. Okay? And that visual that you can't see, technical difficulty, it's just answers all these questions so beautifully.
So you actually have just one election.
Yes, you just show up on November. Yeah, do the math afterwards. And the other piece that's very important is you do it in rounds transparently. So what I mean by that is everybody's voting. Okay? And what they do is they post, your election officials post, after the first round, this is the results. He's got 47, I've got 3, here's the results. We don't have a winner. And then they go, okay, Dave's eliminated. Then they post the second round. It's all transparent. It has to be transparent. So, I don't think we're going to get there.
Oh, and so you're saying, ranked choice voting really just applies in general. You do away with the primary anyway.
You can keep the primary. In the U.S.,
Why do you want to do that?
the reason, I'm going to tell you why. That's asking everybody to change too much too fast. I'm just going there. I've done this before with new products.
Okay,
You change too far too fast. The human body, the human psyche goes, I'm just good with what I got, I'm gonna go back.
But if the primary only has 2 choices anyway, then how do you end up with 4 or 5 candidates?
Because we have a primary where you advance the top 4 or 5. It's a single primary.
So you don't have just 2 candidates.
Correct.
You have a
4.
single primary with a variety of candidates.
There you go.
I see, and the top 4 or 5 advance.
Yeah.
My other question is, the difference between approval voting and ranked choice is just ranking versus pick everybody.
She asked a really in-depth question about approval voting and ranked choice. I'll answer that afterwards. That's a pretty depth one.
Seems to me that what you're advocating undermines the two-party system where you vote for policy than people.
So his statement was, it seems what we're advocating is to undermine the two-party system and vote for, instead of voting for policies, we're voting for people. Yep. So the key is, what we're advocating for is, it would really be a two-party plus system. So if we go back to the 60s and the 70s, there were actually 2 Democratic parties internally and 2 Republican parties. There was a conservative Democratic Party and a liberal Democratic Party within the party, and there was the same on the Republican side. Those have now coalesced into one on each side. So what we are advocating for is competition. So it's easier for a third party to start up. We don't believe you'll all of a sudden have 50 new parties. What we do believe is the Democrats and the Republican parties will adjust. If they see a new party forming over here, they're going to adjust policy and start capturing those voters.
I think what he's saying, what he is also saying, which is that right now it doesn't matter who the person is. You vote D or R, because regardless of who the person is, that person's going to vote, like you just said, either
Right.
conservative or liberal.
Right.
It really doesn't matter anymore who the person is.
Right. So I think I'm well over my time. So hold on. Yep, go ahead.
I may have missed this when I was in the restroom, but didn't they just pass a law against this, like, very recently?
They tried to pass a law against ranked choice voting. I'm going to give our organization credit. We've got about 5,000 people that have joined the conversation. We had about 150 to 200 write online comments and another 20 show up in person, and it died in the Senate. And the reason is, and I can say this with, you guys don't know me that well, 100% honesty and faith. When I'm out talking to Iowans, and they understand what we're talking about, and I'm not saying it's one conversation. A lot of you will go, I get that piece, I don't understand that, I got questions there, I don't know if I believe that. Once they understand, check, easily 3/4 of Iowans go, their number one thing to me is, Dave, when can we have this? Okay? So, I will make sure you guys get a link to that, and sorry about the technical difficulties, that would have been beautiful to see, I know, you're gonna have to trust me on that. Isn't that wonderful? So, any more questions?
Did you address?
No, I'm gonna talk, that's a more advanced question about approval voting and ranked choice voting.
We'll chat.
Yeah, we can chat afterwards. Yeah. Going once, going twice, thank you very much.
So we are going to take a small break while we get the technical difficulties sorted out. Thank you for that great presentation. One thing else, when I ran for city council, one of my platforms was ranked choice voting. This is a way to never have your vote get thrown away. Ranked choice voting makes sure every vote counts in some way. Just curious, 2.0. But we'll take a 5-minute break. Be ready at 15 after.